Hey y'all, it's Tempest. As some of you know me on the online games. Here we are going to go over a couple of things, kind of in general, when it comes to your privacy online, privacy policies, cookie policies specifically. Um, I was going to do this in a more general sense, but some things came up in the last week or so with Norroth that I wanted to revisit and clarify. In part because I have some insight and experience, and it's difficult to have a conversation with the developer on how to fix these issues. But I also just wanted to offer my own insights and as well to players, so that they're aware of their rights when it comes to privacy and consent with your information online. So I want to just step back a couple months. A couple months ago, I found the developer was using a tool to record information about my play session, and I made a video about that, and that caused the recording software to be removed from the game, thankfully. At the time in the video, I had said that the developer was within their rights, because most of the time third-party analytics tools are completely allowed as long as they are excuse me, within your policy and you've consented to do that. And it wasn't until a little bit after that I realized that no, there had been no cookie policy. There had been no consent. There had been nothing as explicit as is identified in the GDPR and other cookie policies on how you're supposed to present the fact that you are tracking someone, what you are tracking, how long you're keeping their data for, and asking them for consent, recording the fact that they've consented for that tracking, which is why over the past few years you've seen cookie banners appear on all major websites, and why we have international laws about this. So I wanted to correct that in the video. The developer was not GDPR compliant when they were doing that, and has since sought out the guidance of a lawyer. So clearly, that's an indication of needing to clear up what should and shouldn't have happened in that situation. So today is the 17th. On the 11th, I noticed that the homepage of Norroth had a cookie banner put in at the bottom, which I thought was great, that he had introduced a cookie policy for the first time. Now, the original incident I had noticed about 2 months ago. We now finally have a cookie policy 5 weeks later. And I thought that was cool. I didn't initially like the wording. It says... The initial wording here, if you can see at the bottom, by using the site, you agree to the cookie policy. Now, I'm not in love with that wording, and this is just an opinion. Most sites say something like, this site uses cookies. It brings your attention to the fact that they need your consent. The second part of this, please accept these before using the site, is a much more clear call to action that a lot of the cookie, if you Google how to be GDPR and cookie compliant, will suggest that you word it like this, right? That there is a, hey, we are currently using cookies to track you. Please consent, and that has to be an explicit call to action. What I don't like about this banner is it actually covers the terms of service. If you notice, I can't scroll farther down to actually see the terms of service of the site anymore. So, if someone from the staff or the developer see this video, maybe pass along that suggestion. I had pointed it out before in game, I believe. But yeah. So I thought, excellent, this is interesting. And I brought it up to the developer, and he said, basically, it's all in the terms of service, and behind the login, this was my feedback. You know, saying please accept these. Please accept these before using the site. It's a good way to ask for consent. And he said, hey, it's all in the terms of service, and it's behind the login after accepting the terms of service. Accepting the terms of service is not the same as accepting a cookie policy. A privacy policy and a terms of service is how you're going to use the product and how they're going to use your data within that product, within the game. Cookie policies are explicitly for putting cookies on your system, especially for third-party analytics, tracking, marketing software. It's not about what is core to the product itself. A portion of it can be, and we'll go over that, but a big portion of this, the whole reason for this is we're going to be sending your data to a third party for analysis, right? And they want to call your attention to that, and they need the call to action like this, the please accept before using the site. And you're not supposed to, especially in the EU, and I believe in the Netherlands, and I have an article for this, you're not supposed to cookie gate, meaning that you're not allowed to access the game until you've consented to the cookies, right? And that's not necessarily what's happening here. He's not denying you access to the game. If you somehow refuse this, which you can't at the moment, you can just simply not click on it, but there's no actual way to say, hey, I don't actually consent. But anyway, I didn't like this. It's in the terms of service. That's behind the logins and accepting the terms of service. This is not presented to all the players, especially those of us that have accounts that automatically log in when we visit the game. We're never presented with the cookie policy. So anyway, that's just something to kind of bring up there. So I left this comment for the dev. I'm trying to engage in a conversation, and that's not kind of the nature of how my conversations go with the developer. I'll say something. It feels like is a little defensive or whatever. He counters it, and then that's it. Well, okay. The next day, I was contacted by another player who had seen the original Smartlook tracking video on Norroth, and he contacted me saying, "Hey, Smartlook's currently running on my account." This was a brand new user, and I thought that was really interesting. So I contacted staff, and at first staff was saying, "Smartlook's not on production. We know it's on the dev server, but it's not on production." And a few minutes later, they got back to me and they said, "Actually, it is on production," which I thought was interesting. That staff didn't even know that the developer had again pushed the Smartlook back onto production and was once again tracking people. I had pointed out to the staff that his cookie policy needed to name Smartlook. At the time it didn't, and after talking with them, you can see here's the change. He changed it from third-party analytics tools to specifically this game uses Smartlook. So, talking to staff, I was able to convey that. Now, this document also identifies Google Analytics and AdWords because in the upcoming release, they're going to try to implement some advertising, some additional tracking for revenue. So Smartlook's back in production, and I was able to log in and I was able to see now they're only using it on one particular map, but it's still, I have not consented to the cookie policy, and yet there it is, and you can see it. Well, let's see, in this particular case, it's setting cookies without my consent for Smartlook and for Google Analytics. Now at this time Google wasn't in. It was just the Smartlook cookie. And I did tell staff, hey, the cookie banner is not implemented correctly if all it does, all that happens right now when you click accept is it simply sets a cookie which just determines whether or not to show the banner. Currently, as far as I can tell, There's no JavaScript anywhere else that's actually looking for that cookie being set and whether or not to implement Google Analytics or Smartlook. So regardless of whether or not you consent, these things are happening. Now, I'm not a lawyer. This is just from my experience and what I'm observing. I'm simply kind of making note of what I see and what I think the expectations are. Now, staff has told me that the developer is in contact with his lawyer. Now, we don't know a conclusion of whether or not this is done correctly, but from everything I'm reading, this isn't 100% the way it's supposed to be. So the reason why this is important, privacy and things like this is all about trust. Your relationship as a player to the developer or any company that they are handling your data correctly, especially when they are handing it off to a third party, right? So a big thing is, for me, especially with this particular game, is about transparency with changes. Because when changes are made to this game, they can invalidate a lot of the investments you've done to your character or your guild or whatever. So, a lot of the players that I've spoken to have big concerns about how changes are kind of snuck in here or at least not fully announced. So, while the developer is making efforts to announce some of the cosmetic changes he's making to the game to get people excited, the cookie banner was never announced. It's nowhere in Discord. There's no announcement that, hey, by the way, we now have this, please go consent to it so we can track you. Smartlook was added back in without an announcement, which I find, whatever, me personally, I'm disappointed, because 2 months ago this caused a little bit of an issue here, and here it is back without saying anything. To me, that speaks of dishonesty. But that is just my opinion. So I brought up those issues. I told the staff, hey, I'm not consenting, and yet still it's tracking me. And I let 5 days pass. It was the weekend. I'm not trying to dictate the developers like, oh my God, please get on this, right? But a lot of development is happening. There's some like Patreon updates. Patreon's back on. It's a thing now. Again, I guess. And we're getting some other stuff. And today in game, someone needed an account name change, and within a few minutes they had it. So I mean, clearly the developer's around and available to do things. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So without addressing the developer, since I know not to do that directly, I brought it up to staff again because they were talking in chat. And I said, hey, maybe we can get the cookie issue looked at. And they simply responded to me saying that it's only on one map. It's being used to look into a player bounce rate. Basically, do they leave before engaging with the game? It's not tracking. It's tracking user behavior, but not keystrokes or personal information. Which I thought, cool. It doesn't matter necessarily the scope, how much you're using it. It matters whether or not you're using it, whether or not the game is putting a cookie on your browser. That's what it's boiling down to, and what we could probably solve this thing in like 5 minutes. But instead, here we are, and for the sake of concerned players who are concerned about their privacy, and I will say there are them, because they do contact me on Discord after I put out the videos. They're like, wow, I didn't know this XYZ, and they've checked it themselves if they're being tracked or whatever. So there is concern about this stuff. The fundamental issue is, I'm glad the privacy policy identifies that he's using the software. What I don't like is that if you don't consent, he'll do it anyways. So in my opinion, that is a mistake that should be rectified. The other thing is kind of to the caveats about the scope of this, because none of this stuff is announced. The players didn't know this is back in. The staff didn't know it was even back in. Why should I trust that it's going to stay as one map next week or the week after? Why shouldn't I assume that eventually we'll all be tracked again, right? What is stopping the developer by doing this? Think they added a cookie policy back in, but part of it now is please be compliant with your own policy. So I'll just bring this up so folks are aware, because I from what I can tell, most players have not actually seen the cookie policy, and if so let's just see this. Excuse me. As is a common practice with all professional web games, this game uses cookies, great. Tiny files, great. Improve your experience, correct. This page describes information where they gather, how we use it, and why we sometimes need to store in these cookies, great. We'll also share how you can prevent these cookies from being stored. However, this may downgrade or break certain elements of the game's functionality. It would be really great to understand what functionality in the game. Now, it's not required that he list it here, but it would actually be nice to know, because it is threatened several times in this, that if you disable cookies or block cookies, game functionality will break. And as far as I can tell, using Smartlook and Google Analytics, nothing can break. Now, there's two types of cookies that are widely used. There's first-party cookies and third-party cookies. A first-party cookie is a cookie that the developer of this game is solely responsible for developing. This is a Norroth.com cookie, something that is used for login, potentially, right? Then there's a third-party cookie, which is a cookie set and provided by a third party, such as Google Analytics or Smartlook. Okay, so first-party cookies, you don't need typically you don't need consent for or anything like that, because it is for the functioning of the product. Also, first-party cookies is about you, the company, basically Norroth.com, having that data, that behavior. You're not sending it to a third party, which is what a lot of these cookie policies are trying to address, informing you, the user, about when your data is going off to a third party. How we use cookies. Unfortunately, in most cases, there is no industry standard option for disabling cookies without completely disabling the functioning features they add to this game. So that, again, would be clear. That's, to me, very confusing. What is actually disabled in this game if we disable cookies? I mean, there's plenty of games that don't use cookies. It is recommended that you leave on all cookies if you are not sure whether or not you need them, just in case they're used to provide a service that you use. Yeah, so basically, don't block cookies if you want third-party services to track you. I mean, unless you're going to be more specific, it's safe to assume that most of the time cookies are used for marketing and advertising, because that's the majority use of them. Disabling cookies, yep, you can disable them. Be aware that disabling cookies will affect the functionality of this and many other web games that you visit. So again, that's sort of a very it's broad, right? It's not only going to break this game, but it's going to break other games. Well, that's why you can disable cookies on a site-by-site basis, and that other site should have a cookie policy that allows you to control whether or not you've consented for that game to use cookies. Yep. So now these are the types of cookies they set, which is great. We have some account-related ones, login-related ones, fine. Email and newsletter, great. Order processing, cool. Survey-related. If the survey's from a third party, it'd be nice to know that. I'm assuming here, because he's not identifying it, that he's going to be handcrafting all his surveys. Forms, game preferences, great, cool. Those are fine. This is the meat of it right here. Third-party cookies. In some special cases, we also use cookies provided by trusted third parties. The following section details the third-party cookies you might encounter through this game. This game uses Google Analytics, which is one of the most widespread and trusted analytics solution on the web. It is widespread, trusted. Listen, a lot of privacy advocates and stuff like that, it's about Google Analytics, right? You say trusted. One of the big reasons why the GDPR and stuff exists is because of Google Analytics and Facebook, right? So they're collecting a ton of information, and it's a free service because you are the product. Your data is the product. So just uh, uh, let's be clear about that. There's nothing like intrinsically good about giving your data over to Google. Um, uh, and helping us understand how you use the game in ways you can improve the experience. Absolutely. So I'm personally all for analytics. I love analytics. I've used analytics for whatever 20 years now. In today's age, you do it with consent, right? With cookie banners and making sure that you're doing things ethically and morally. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with analytics or tracking users, especially to improve the experience. There's a lot of important things that even if you can talk to a user one-on-one, what they say and what they do in your product are two different things. So data can be very, very helpful. This game uses Smartlook to track and measure usage of the game so we can continue to produce engaging content. These cookies may track how long you play the game, what pages you visit, clicks or actions, which is great. There's nothing wrong with Smartlook. There's nothing wrong with Smartlook. It's all about consent, which is the only thing I've been talking about for 2 months. From time to time, we test new features. Okay, cool. As we sell product, then we're getting into the AdSense thing, which coming in a future update, you'll be able to earn Norroth coin by engaging in ads. Great. Now, what I would like as a player and as someone, I don't want Google or AdSense to be tracking my data. I should be able to opt out of this. And we're going to take a look at a couple of examples, but yes, you should be able to opt out of this, especially that this server, this game is in the EU. It falls under some stricter regulations than in other parts of the world. California in the US is probably one of the strictest of the states. So yeah, I'm just saying being able to opt out of that would be great. Also, they've got social media buttons, and those are going to set cookies as well. So one thing I would love is for Facebook not to be setting a cookie. It'd be lovely if I could just opt out of that. This last little bit, fine. Hopefully this clarifies things for you. As was previously mentioned, if there's something you aren't sure whether or not, it's usually safer to leave cookies enabled in case it does interact with one of these features you use on our game. I'm going to say right now, and until the developer can explain otherwise, I don't see why it is safer to leave cookies enabled. You're leaving yourself open to more tracking when it comes to Norroth.com because it's not clear what feature is improved because of enabling cookies. That's an opportunity for improvement in the wording and transparency to the player. And you can see right here on any browser, you can go to document. If you open up your dev console, go to document.cookie. Oop, document. Oh, I put 2 O's there. Sorry. You can see right now on this page, it's got a GA cookie that's Google Analytics and an FB cookie that's Facebook. When I flip over to my other browser, you'll see all the ones set by Smartlook. So there's a couple of things, right? I noticed, and again, in transparency of all this, 5 days ago, I noticed Smartlook was re-enabled. I think it was just today. Today, I noticed that Google Analytics was added and Google Tag Manager, which is a way Google Tag Manager allows a developer to basically load in different scripts. In this case, Google Analytics and Google Ads. But it could be additional ones as well. So I noticed that as well down here at the bottom of the page. So that was new from what I could tell because I hadn't noticed the cookie it sets a few days ago. So I might be right. I might have come in yesterday or perhaps Saturday, but I check the homepage pretty frequently for stuff like this. Oh, look at that. There's an example of a cookie banner. So this is a cookie banner. This website uses cookies right there, right? Nice and clear. We use cookies to personalize content and ads, provide social media, etc. You notice how I can allow, customize, or deny. This is a great cookie banner. I can deny, and then they won't track me. I can allow. I could customize. Which, look at this, the necessary ones. Right, necessary cannot be deselected. These are ones like those first party cookies I was talking about. Cookies fall into different categories. Are they absolutely necessary for the site to function? I'll tell you, Smartlook and Google Analytics and AdWords are not necessary for the site to function. Preferences, right? Change the way the website behaves or looks. Preferred language, statistics. Marketing, right? And I like this consent form because it allows you, and right, this is where I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm not an expert. I'm not a legal expert in this. I'm just simply an experienced developer who's implemented many of these. But I'm also not an expert in Dutch law or anything like that. But what would be interesting is from all the articles and instances I've seen, giving people the ability to opt out. You should be able to generally, be able to opt out, be able to accept, but then be able to not accept. And that's not currently something that's in Norroth as far as I can see. Once you accept, you never get another banner that says, "Oh, did you want to reverse your option, etc." This also allows me to review at any time what my choices are. Right? That's generally another one of the key features of this. So I'm going to go ahead and deny. So there's plenty of articles like this. So I mean, I think it's great that the developer is going to consult a lawyer. That perfect, great, always do that. I would also say it's also not that difficult to understand what you're supposed to do. What types and categories are of the cookies. Just like we just saw, whether it's like marketing versus performance, etc. The categories of the data, the purpose of each cookie, how long the cookie stays enabled, we didn't see that data. Where in the world the data ends up, we didn't see that data. What third party is it shared with? We saw that, but we only saw Smartlook after I pressed the issue. How can the end user choose whether to allow to process the data, and how can they later check or change their consent state? So this is the conversation I wish I could have with the developer. Kind of just point out, it's not that I want to point out don't track anyone ever. It's if you're going to do it, there's a way to do it. Please implement it correctly, not only to protect you, but also the players. Right? And you as a player should understand, right? Here they are. A key part of being compliant with most major data privacy legislation in the world, including the EU GDPR, California's CCPA, Brazil's LGPD, and South Africa's POPIA. So the ones that are most, this is what I'm talking about with the EU GDPR. A lot of players are from the EU, the developers in the EU, the server is in the EU, right? Your website cookie policy must always be up to date and should answer the following questions, right? Think of let's see, and this is different than a privacy policy, right? A cookie policy is about going over the tracking technology, right? What else? Yeah, difference between privacy and cookie, right? Cookie policy is specifically about the tracking technology embedded on your website. That's why it includes so it often includes a cookie policy in their privacy policy. Sure. Right now, the terms of service just say Norroth may set cookies, which doesn't answer any of this stuff. So the current Norroth terms of service is not a cookie policy, not in any sense of it. There's some tools here for generating a policy. Your website policy should contain, and this is sort of the same thing. And then this necessary preference, statistics, and marketing, right? This is really important too. Norroth may set a necessary cookie for you to be able to log in. It may set a preference or a statistics one for Smartlook, or Google advertising or AdWords, or make the case that the Google Ads is tied into a new feature that absolutely will not work if ads don't work. That's fair, right? But I would say Smartlook doesn't follow into that. And, but here, necessary cookies are usually benign and exempt from data privacy requirements. So actually, it's a good point. I don't think you can do a necessary one. That's Google Analytics. This is for your lawyer to sort out. But that's, you're sending data to a third party. That's not a benign cookie. You need to identify what Google will be taking from your users. Marketing cookies often process personal data from your end users and share it with third parties all over the world. That is absolutely correct. You guys need to understand that your data going to Google will be shared. All cookies must be documented clearly on the website, regardless of type and category. How to update your... Also, going back to the game here for a sec. If you guys see this? You see that little lock icon right up there? It's not showing the mouse. If you click that on Chrome, a drop-down appears. And it says, is your connection secure or not? Some notifications. Then it says cookies. And it actually lists the cookies that are currently active on the site. And right now I can go, it says 5 in use. So right now if I go into Norroth, it says I've got the FB one, I've got 2 from Google Analytics. Great. And when I show my other browser, it says it has 15. Because it has the Smartlook one enabled. Anyway, this is just showing that here's some regional cookie requirements, right? Because the EU is under a whole different thing. Informing end users about where and how they can make a choice of consent on all non-necessary cookies. You get to make a choice about consent on non-necessary cookies. That is the EU GDPR. If you have users from inside the EU, you are legally required to first obtain their explicit consent before you activate any cookies that process personal data, right? Except for the cookies that are strictly necessary for the basic function of your website. And I gotta be honest, right? Google Analytics and Smartlook are not necessary for the basic functionality of the website. Now, I'm not in the EU, and so this is a rather interesting thing. If you're in the EU, you have more protection than I do in the United States, right? So just to keep that in mind, you can usually, and I think this article goes over it, but you can even request that all the records that Smartlook has on you, you can request those to be deleted, right? That's your data that they've tracked. You can request that to be deleted, right? You have that right. This is usually done through a consent banner that's presented to the end user with a clear overview of all cookies in use on the website. Now, what the cookie policy currently identifies are the cookie providers, not a list of the cookies themselves. And that's kind of nitpicky, but I'll actually show you guys examples of what I mean. And provide them with an easy choice of saying yes or no to the cookies. Right now, there is no choice. There's just yes. California. So for California, it includes informing your end users about where on your website they'll be able to opt out of their personal data of being sold to third parties. So if you have users from California, you might be legally required to have a link or a button that says, "Do not sell my personal data." Keep this in mind with a lot of regulation, especially things about taxes and here with privacy. Just because the server's in the Netherlands doesn't mean that's the only set of guidelines you need to follow. If your users are in California and you're collecting data from a California user, this might apply. It's the same thing when I run a server in the US. If I have European users, I need to make sure that I'm in compliance with European privacy laws, right? So anyway, so I just wanted to bring some of that stuff up. You as a user, I know a lot of people just hit accept, and that's fine. But there's no harm in being better informed. Let's see. And I also want to point out, here's something kind of specific to the Netherlands. This is a cookie wall. You often see this on, I would say on sites probably not in the EU, where you're not allowed to proceed into the site unless they accept the cookies. Now, there's arguments back and forth. Hey, if you don't accept my terms of service, I don't have to provide service to you. Yeah, in the EU, in this article goes into it as well as other articles. You're not allowed to gate just based off the tracking software. If you have a product, you need to provide access to the product. You can't just say you don't get access to this. You must accept Google Analytics. What is supposed to happen is when someone says no to being tracked, you're still supposed to provide the product. You just can't collect and send the third-party data to another service. So I should be able to play Norroth, and one should be able to play Norroth with zero concern that my data is going to Smartlook. The developer can write his own proprietary tracking software and collect it in his own database and not share it with anyone else. That would be first-party data, right? First-party tracking. That's fine. That would be in your privacy policy, in your terms of service, identifying that you will be doing all the tracking and storing it and stuff like that, right? But that's not what's happening here. Cool. And just to go over this, let's see. Is this the site? That didn't do anything. Hold on just a second. Let me try to refresh. I wanted to just show the... Oh, I see. I was logged out. Choose character. There we go. I'm just going to show... Hold on. Just want to show the actual game so that folks can recognize this other part. Let's see. There we go. So here's a character. I'm in the first map that they said this is where Smartlook is enabled. You'll see over there the check, right? Let's see, check. That is header. Yeah. Check is Smartlook. Init is Smartlook. Write is Smartlook. Cache is Smartlook. Here is Smartlook recording my game session. Again, I've not consented to this. So we're in the same situation we were 2 months ago. And I'm not here to say if it's illegal or legal, because I'm not a lawyer. What I am going to say is I have not consented to tracking this. This isn't covered in the terms of service. It's implied that there is now a cookie policy that you're supposed to consent to for this to happen. So from what I am understanding of the developer's intent is to put that policy there so that you can consent to it so that he can do this, but he's doing it anyway. And if you remember, if I do document dot cookie, you'll see a lot more here, right? The SL underscore, this is a lot more cookies. These are all the, it still has the Google Analytics cookies. It's got some of the, yeah, and then the GA ads. So that's AdSense. So we have Google AdSense now tracking me. We have Google Analytics tracking me. We have Smartlook tracking me. So this can be easily rectified if you simply look into whether or not I've consented for this to happen, and if not, do not initialize these scripts. Do not load these scripts. It is not difficult to check your document.cookie for a value. He has a function built right into the page because it's the one he uses on whether or not to show you the banner. Don't do this if I haven't consented. It's that simple. So yeah, so there's that. What I did want to show is here. Let's just go to. Actually, I wanted to show another example of. Let's see. Let's do Riot software, Riot Games, just because he did bring up that other games, other companies use this stuff. And so here with cookie preferences, this is Riot Games. You notice how they go over it, but they allow you now to opt out. Right, essentials, you can't opt out of that, but you can opt out of the marketing ones, the personalization, the analytics. And then here's that thing, or I'm going to move my thing, that do not sell, right? That was that California part. Do not sell my personal data to third parties when I visit this website, right? That's turned off, right? So this is a good cookie banner, right? This is a good cookie policy. At any point, I can see what my choices were. I can change them, right? The other one I want to look at is World of Warcraft, right? This is another really great one. I actually really appreciate this one because cookie policy. This one names the cookies, like the actual cookies that you'd see. So it's the required cookies. They tell you what the cookie's used for in the category, right? Here's the performance cookies. We have Optimizely, we have GA, right? You see how Google Analytics is a performance cookie, right? We have functional cookies, right? This one's locale, right? It's used for, it looks like for Twitter to figure out your language. Cool. Blizzard and affiliate marketing, right? So DoubleClick, Twitter, ads, Twitch TV, right? Ad management, Facebook, right? This is this category under marketing cookies, right? So in this case, Smartlook would fall in the same category as Optimizely. Optimizely and Smartlook are the same sort of thing. Recording your browser experience, being able to A/B test content and stuff like that. So clearly, I would say that Smartlook and Google Advertising, Google Analytics are right here in this performance category, which you should be able to opt out of. So yeah. Anyway, that's what I just wanted to. I know this is a long video, but it is it's a topic that I feel should be addressed. Anyone that plays any online game should feel like your data is being handled safely and securely. A big part of this is trust, and I addressed earlier in the video as to why I feel it's not that I'm expecting every developer ever to know everything and to implement everything perfectly the first time. That is an unrealistic expectation. I don't have that. What I hope is that when certain things get brought up, they are rectified. That is my hope and expectation. I brought this up 2 months ago. It was brought up 2 months ago that a lawyer would be talked to about this issue. There's been no communication about that. I brought this up a week ago, and the developer's response to me made me feel like A, he didn't understand it, and B, didn't want to engage with me on this topic, which I'm not talking about like, hey, I think my character sprite should be red versus green. It's like, hey, can we not spy on players without their consent? Can we handle data securely and responsibly? And then I let another day go by, found out that this thing was reinstalled, reintroduced. A lot of these things, like, they make me nervous about the development practices. And so yeah, it's a long video because there's a lot to go over, and I'm not sure if there's a great way to really get this across to the developer directly. Hopefully maybe the staff will see some of this video, and if not, then at least you as the player can feel better informed about what you should be looking for and what you should be expecting when you see a cookie banner. If you have concerns about someone with a website tracking you, what they're doing for that data. Heaven forbid there was ever a player who was banned from a game where the game admins determined they were doing something, but were able to do that with data that should not have been obtained, right? So that's right. That's interesting. If you had if you had your account banned, but the means in which they prove that you were cheating or thought that you were cheating, hence the original video, right? Like, why was I being spied on? If you hadn't given consent for that to happen, right? That could be an interesting issue. It's an interesting question to raise. So you have rights as a user on this website, right? This is one of the interesting things. One of the things Norroth really touts is that it is this. Here it is: no downloads, instant gameplay, right? Well, guess what? It's a website, and unlike something you would download to your computer or your phone, it falls under certain regulations and laws, and I don't think anyone should feel like. Those that shouldn't be that shouldn't be followed. That shouldn't be yeah. So anyway, the other last thing I'll just say is the local storage now is filled with. We have some stuff from this is like cookies, but not quite. Smartlook. There's some of Google experiments. Yeah, it's interesting. Up until recently, I don't think there was really anything in the local storage. So clearly stuff is changing in the game, and there's been no communication about it. The only reason I know as much as I do is because I keep asking staff when I notice things in related to user data and privacy. So anyway, thank you for tuning in, and have a wonderful day.